All right, welcome to the T-ROH show. That's your host Keith. We're getting back to what T-ROH used to be when it started. At one point, the T-ROH show had, believe it or not, and we have proof, 49 million hits in 1 month, which was probably one of the biggest ratings that anybody's ever had. Because there were people from all over the world that were watching the T-ROH show at its height. Okay, when it was very popular at the time. Um, we started, or the host here started getting hit a lot with people just attacking, trying to steal things and do all that. We just hit a bunch of videos, okay, just on that right there, exposing people that were trying to steal, saying that, lies that we had my own private trust and I was stealing estates and all this kind of thing. That person's been removed from a couple of other Rumble and BitChute copyright violations, and got to get him back off of Rumble again, okay? Because he's opened up another channel and he's whining and complaining. So I think what's happening, folks, is we're right back to where we were before, is that this dude has an obsession. We're talking about Jay Von Spreck. So that's all I want to say about that. We're going to move on here, and probably the most important show that I've done since the T-ROH show started. The reason why I'm going to say that is because we have found, or some people have found, evidence. It's about a 3-hour show. And they talked about the age of enlightenment. Of course, they're ignoring the United States of America and the the Confederacy of 1781 started at 1776. I know they're ignoring that, but this is extremely important because this one starts again from Alan Weishaupt, but it has a completely different point of view as to who these men were and who people call the founding fathers. Many people believe that the founding fathers were Christians. Well, that was a deception, a huge deception. I know people are going to be going to the Masons, but you got to really see what is going on here, what's happening. It's the scene behind the scene. It's what's really going on and what the real agenda is. And that's what we do on the T-ROH show. We dig and dig and pull those layers of onions, keep pulling them each layer off one at a time. Well, we're going to go to the core on this one, because these guys and the way that they believe and think are the core as to why the country is going down right now, why it has turned into what it's turned into. And these people, these types of people, these types of thinkers have essentially ruined my life and have ruined yours, especially if you're speaking out against them. They'll ruin your life. They don't care, because they'll think of you as some kind of crazy man. You're crazy in your thinking. This is the type of people they are. There's no evidence in what you believe. It's beyond reason. Okay. So let's get into who these people are. I have a bunch of guests on here. They're going to be jumping in here and there, giving their point of view on it and what they're seeing. So let's move on. All right. Now, the founding fathers wanted to portray themselves as Christian to convince believers that they need to get involved with politics. Weird, right? This is called the Age of Reason. It's right here. This is George Washington, and there is his. They're saying that this little skirt here goes all the way back to Adam and Eve. This is what they're portraying to people, and that it represents the leaf that came off of the tree, the fig tree. and they say that you know they're trying to portray that they're Christians and actually believe in Adam and Eve and Jesus, Yahushua. Okay. Now, just giving you an idea here where we're going. Enlightenment thinkers of Europe. This is who they where they came from. The French Freemasons that exalted the goddess of reason. That's this right here. This is who they worship. Is the goddess of reason. Reason will govern self. Worship of human intellect. Okay? Now you're going to hear this out of judges a lot. You're going to hear this out of prosecutors and police officers. That doesn't make any sense. That's not reasonable. Nothing here makes any sense. That just insults my intellect if you think I'm going to believe that. You're going to hear a lot of those things coming out of their mouth. They're telling you who they are. Okay, and this is who they worship right here. Let me see if we got that. There we go. The goddess of reason is enthroned right here. The same goddess is the Statue of Liberty. And the same woman that has the balance where you have the blindfold on. Talking about justice. Same people are doing the same thing over and over that ruin people's lives. The goddess of reason is enthroned right here. Now, common sense addressed to the inhabitants of America. Okay. Now that's people that don't have any they're number one, they're not white. Okay. Remember, it was only white men that could be at this time citizens of the United States. White males over the age of 18. And this was a book that came out by Thomas Paine. This book was read to George Washington's troops. We're going to give you the link to this particular show. It's like 3 hours long. If you want to sit and watch it, it's excellent. It tells you everything as to what was going on back then and why nothing makes any sense to anybody today that comes out of Washington, D.C. Thomas Paine was a man from Europe that was found by Benjamin Franklin. His writings there weren't that inspirational. So what he did was he came over to America and he inspired the revolution of 1776 with his writings. Until at the end, okay, at the end of those writings, he started basically stating who he was, his real writings, and how radical he really was, and his popularity went way down. That was after the revolution. This is in the 1790s. Okay? Because they all realized exactly who and what this man was. Now, when I see throughout this book called The Bible, this is one of his quotes, a history of the grossest vices and a collection of the most paltry and contemptible tales and stories. I could not so dishonor my Creator by calling it by his name. That's a quote from Thomas Paine, the same guy that literally named the United States of America, who was a Frenchman. I'll read this again. This is what he says about the Bible. These are your founding fathers now. George Washington, I'll have a list of them here in a minute. It says, when I see throughout this book called the Bible, a history of the grossest vices and the collection of the most paltry and contemptible tales and stories, I could not so dishonor my Creator by calling it by his name. He absolutely hated the Bible. He hated the Father in heaven. He hated Jesus. He talked about how crazy it was to think that a woman could have a virgin birth, be pregnant by a god and then give birth to the son with no father on earth. And the way that they discredit people that believe this, they call them heretics and crazy. That they'll put like 10,000 virgins in an area with 10,000 men, and then they'll check to see whether the ones that got pregnant are done by a man or some divine birth. And this is how they prove themselves, by reason. Okay. And they'll say if they haven't been, if they haven't been impregnated without a man and they're still a virgin, because you could tell if a woman's a virgin or not medically, then that story could never have happened. And if that's the case, then it's just crazy to believe so. So you're a nut job by believing it. They don't understand that if you believe that, okay, the mindset that you need to go down the narrow way is that mindset. So what they're doing is they're filling hell. People like this. People like Thomas Paine and Alan Weishaupt and Karl Marx. All those people. Believe it or not, Thomas Paine will write something like that, but he is a believer. Okay? So, does not believe in God of the Bible. This is what he wants to portray to everybody. Because, see, he right at this time, he's the hero of the revolution. So what he wants to do is he wants to get it in everybody's head that if he could achieve what he did, that he did it without God. Okay? So would read the Bible and reject what was unreasonable. So it was unreasonable to believe that a woman would be a virgin and be pregnant. That's unreasonable. So therefore, to him, it never happened. Does this sound familiar to anyone in this country? Those listeners out there, are you seeing this? Okay, because it's about to be revealed the biggest secret they've got as to why and how they were able to take over the country and deceive so many people for the last 250 years or so. Okay? So keep that in mind. Unreasonable. If you hear that coming out of a judge, watch it. That judge is corrupt to the core. Because man's heart is corrupt to the core. And a man that rejects the Father and rejects Yahushua, who does he work for? So this is the common sense here in Inhabitants of that Thomas Paine wrote. This was without the pen of the author of Common Sense, the sword of Washington would have been raised in vain. So John Adams gave Thomas Paine credit for what he was doing. That means John Adams and Washington and Thomas Paine together were against the Bible. They were against Yahushua, Jesus, and against our Father in heaven, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That they're not Christian. They were against it. What they were doing was fighting for independence from God. And now they're saying that we have a right to be independent from religion. There are people that are like this in America today. Okay, so just realize this is who they are. Now, the founding of the Illuminati in 1776 was Alan Weishaupt. I've gone over that before. But like I said, this was something that expanded into something else that I I did not see or understand, and I was not able to really pick them out until, I watched this movie and then fully understood what they were talking about. Okay. Perfectionist, Illuminati migrating to America. So the agenda is this. This is what they believe. Separation of church and state. How many people in this country believe in separation of church and state? Freaking everybody. Well, you got to have a separate. You can't have church with state. Everybody does that. Everybody believes it because that's what you believe is right, when that's total crap. Controls and the power of the state. That's what you have today. The state took your right to travel, right to drive a car. They took over the name of the roads to make things privileges. They've been taking basic rights that people have and turning them into privileges and turning them into a way of income, of revenue creation for the power of the state. And then what do they do next? They emancipate the women. So in today's world, under the credit card world, now you have two people in the house that are debtors, not one. Women couldn't go and get a loan back in the day. She was reliant on the man. Okay, the way it is in the Bible. But now that just sounds crazy to everybody. Okay? So they emancipated the women. So now Tim the Toolman Taylor, if everybody remembers that show, gets made fun of on a daily basis. On every one of his shows, he was made fun of, even by his sons. He was no longer the man of the house, no longer respected. And all his wife did, character, is just make fun of him every day, as if he was some kind of moron and idiot. That went on for years, as long as that show went on. That's why I do not like Tim Allen too much. I think that what he did was ruin the social part of the country. Okay, so emancipated the women. So now the woman and the power of the state are together, and the man is cut out. So you bring the emancipation of the women and the controls and power of the state together, where the power of the state backs the woman, not the man. You have got a real problem, because you set up a upside down natural order. And now you got separation of church and state. The reason why they wanted to separate the church from the state is to get rid of this order and put the women in under the control and power of the state. And therefore they've ruined the families, and the sons no longer have a father. The daughters no longer have a father. So the daughters turn into whores, and you have a real problem in society. Like I said, these men ruined my life. They've ruined a lot of people's lives. They've ruined the country. Their ideas were stupid, idiotic. They were the same people that put the Georgia Guidestones up there. If you haven't heard from them, take a look. Okay, they've already been knocked down. These men have no right to do what they did. What they did was, I'll get to that in a minute. Let these be guidestones to an age of reason. They're trying to bring about an age of reason, which basically are these three things that destroy families. When you destroy the family, you destroy the country. The men that were involved in this heavily were John Adams, Ben Franklin, George Washington, Thomas Paine, Adam Weishaupt, and Thomas Jefferson. They were called Enlightenment thinkers. Paine started the revolution and or inspired it here and in France, both against Yahushua. Okay? You have this thing, and everybody has this thing in their mind that a demon has got horns on it. Or it's some dark black thing. Okay, a shadow. Whatever you want to think about. Pitchfork and the whole deal. Forked tail. The truth is that demons are men that reject their Father in heaven and try to declare independence from him, which is exactly what the devil did, tried to declare independence from him. So he ended up in hell. And that's where these guys are probably sitting now. More than likely. Men that reject our Father in heaven, that reject Jesus, Yahushua, are, in fact, demons. They're just in disguise. They're disguised as men. Along with the curse in them that was in Adam, that passed down to them, they just, Thomas Paine was probably the most evil man you could ever imagine. He had a lot of people killed in that revolution. A lot of people died. You celebrate every 4th of July, you celebrate Thomas Paine's independence from our Father in heaven. Their independence from the Bible. Their independence from the Creator, the one who created them. When they talk about a creator, they're talking about the devil that created their way of thinking. Thomas Paine's way of thinking. That's how this worked. These men were demons. George Washington was a demon. He was a man that rejected the Bible, rejected the word of our Father, rejected the fact that Yahushua existed, rejected Mary, and rejected everybody else.
Yeah, in the 3-hour, if I may, in the 3-hour documentary, the evidence is clear over and over and over again that they rejected Jesus' deity. And this is just proof positive that what it says in 1 Corinthians 2:14, the natural man receiveth not things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him, neither can he know them because they are spiritually discerned. So you can't receive Christ Jesus or the gifts of the Spirit if you're going to reject the Son and reject our Heavenly Father. And again, there's evidence within that 3-hour documentary that you'll put forth that shows that they were, in fact, demons.
Yep, and everybody that thinks basically the same way. They're not fallen angels. Fallen angels are fallen angels. They're just fallen. But they're not demons. Men are the demons that join them in their rebellion. These men are so easily hidden. It's unbelievable. They'll say certain things right in front of you just to mock you, that you're ignorant to their existence. They do it all the time. They're very sick people. Schumer, man's a demon. He'll reject the Father and Jesus anytime. He's done it. Schumer has a family of demons. Biden, same way. Pelosi, same thing. That there's a one wicked-ass demon woman. Hillary, same thing. People call them devil worshippers, but they're not devil worshippers. They're demons. That assumes that they're people. They're not people. And I get the whole lizard thing, but I don't believe they're lizards either. They're just demons. They have joined in the revolution against our Father in heaven and trick you into following them or looking up to them. George Washington is the crap on people's shoe. He's no hero. None whatsoever. Not even close to being a hero. He murdered a lot of people in vanity. He did it in vain. He did it for himself. He didn't do it for anybody else. He didn't care about you. He was declaring his independence from the Christians by using the Christians and telling them that they were getting an independent country. Did it happen? Not really. Maybe for about 8 years, but that's about it. Because right after those pieces of crap that's on your shoe came up with their constitution, they immediately implemented slavery again. They immediately separated the churches in Philadelphia and other major cities. They were integrated churches, and they made them all white churches. However, their chameleon-like existence is amazing, of how well they are hidden and how well they hide themselves. You don't ever believe them. You never listen to them. I've seen judges say these things. I've seen lawyers. I've seen doctors. These people are they say, oh, we're in the age of reason, where man's intellect is superior to all others. That's what they say. And that to believe anything else is lunacy. It's crazy. So you come in and you say, okay, I've accepted Yahushua as my Lord and Savior, Jesus, and my sins have been forgiven. Well, that's just lunacy. That's how these guys are, because you can't reasonably or come to a reasonable conclusion that is a fact. That's how that's how these demons talk. And that's how they get you to look like you're some kind of nut job. And then they come over and try to take you over or take what you have. See, demons are thieves also. They take what you have, trying to take your inheritance and everything else. And they will quote Jesus. They'll do that to make you believe, try to make you believe they're on your side. Well, they believe in Jesus too, but they have no problem lying to you, because remember, you're a nut job. So you always, say to the nut job what the nut job wants to hear, so that you don't become violent. That's what they're doing. They're mocking you.
It's interesting, like growing up and being in school, we learned a lot of patriotic, like learned about the presidents, right? They were glorified. And then later on, when I was homeschooling, with Christian material, it was still, they were glorifying the presidents, very patriotic material. And they would show quotes, them quoting scripture. But they wouldn't show these quotes, that they were actually against the majority of scripture, and they were picking and choosing. It's really sad that Christians, or people they think are believers, are worshiping these people, and they're flying their flags, and now Trump is the newest one. Save us, Trump. It doesn't end, but the behind the scenes, what they're saying here, right here, like what Paine is saying, is that's really sad, that these are the idols of a country.
Yeah, it's horrible. What other presidents did they talk about? They talked about others, right? They in the movie?
Yeah, I only remember the ones you shared, which was Washington, Franklin, John Adams.
Franklin, I don't think was ever president, but
sorry, yeah.
yeah. He was an
He
ambassador, I think.
Yeah, he was a master of the lodge in England too. Just funny.
Right. Here's the weird thing. Okay, guys, if everybody doesn't really get this, if you go over to Paris, France, they'll have a Statue of Liberty on the front, like on a, it's a little small one, and it's right in front of this hall that they have, and every president that's been in office is on that wall. It's in that chamber, they call it. They walk in, there's a huge hall there, and every president of the United States has been or has their picture on that wall. Now, what would be the connection? Logically, what's the connection? Let's even appeal to your reason. We've heard that, right? Because this can go both ways. We can screw with you too on the voice of reason if you want to play that game. Why would Paris, France have presidents of the United States on their wall as a record? Unless there's only one connection, and that connection, and you notice in the Revolutionary Wars, you forget all about Paris and or France and its revolution that was fought over here. They allude to it, and that one movie, oh shoot, can't remember. Is that Indian guy that was running around all the time? It'll come to me. There's a lot of hair in that movie. That's all I can tell you. Everybody had really long hair.
Anyway. Oh, that's funny.
There was a lot of hair in that movie. It'll come to me what that movie was. I bet you everybody is listening going, it's this. Keith, get it.
It's a hairy Indian movie.
It's not Geronimo, right? That you're thinking of?
No, Geronimo. It was the English and the French Revolutionary War that was being fought over here. And they had Magua, that one Indian guy that wanted to kill white men and the English commander and all that because he killed his family. But anyways, it was just basically a drama. It's like a soap opera. But it'll come to me. Anyway, the only common denominator between them is Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Paine, between France and America, the U.S. And they still have not come out and said, yes, we are a 3-city-state empire. They won't admit it. That information's been out for 10 years now, widely, that you have the U.S., Vatican, and the Crown, and England, which is not the King of England now. It's the banking system, and they still do not tell anybody or admit that they're a 3-city-state empire. And that all developed through Thomas Paine. He was one of the beginning founders, along with Alan Weishaupt, of the way of thinking of the Illuminati. The Illuminati, the reason why it's evil is because it is without our Father in heaven, Yahweh. It's without our Father in heaven. And they don't recognize Yahushua or Jesus, so they're completely cut off from them. And man cut off from the Father is a demon. And that goes all the way back to Adam and Eve. Okay, because Adam and Eve was go ahead and say that, Derek. If you want to just bring it up.
It's been discovered and proven that Benjamin Franklin, they went to his house back in England and they dug up a spot in his basement, and they dug up over 100 bodies worth of parts. And so the guy's like a Jeffrey Dahmer, if that answers your question.
Okay. So imagine that. But if it goes back to Adam and Eve, it goes back to the original fall. Okay. So things are not quite what you thought they were. They're not quite what everybody believes they are. Okay. Just like people would say that I would have the coroner of the government of the United States of America declare people dead and then go and rape their estates. That makes no sense. But if you say it many, many times, people start believing it. They don't think it through. They don't, do that. They just believe the lie.
Well, the victors write the history books, so they've just repeated how great these people are, and everyone believes it.
Which in and of
Absolutely.
itself is a rejection of the truth, because Genesis 6:5, and God saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Again, it's just further rejection of Jesus and our Father in heaven to promote the age of reasoning of man.
Get this, right? If you type in Wikipedia, even the Statue of Liberty, the image that comes up, the description above it says Statue of Liberty, liberty enlightening the world. That's a huge declaration.
Yeah, and you can thank the French Freemasons for that little gift to this country.
So you're not a big Statue of Liberty fan, Chris?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
Take it back.
Just come out with it, Chris. Don't
Take it back. Like Jen said, take it back.
Did they send a ship? We'll go ahead and cut off the feet, and we can use the rest of the copper there and make pennies.
Hey, the Georgia Guidestones came down. Maybe
they did. Yeah, they did. They were blown up. I don't know who did that, but it was very silently. There was no objections to whoever had that up there. I don't know if the Masons did it or not, but you'll notice that I think it was in Bulgaria. I'm not sure if that's correct or not. They're burning down Masonic lodges. I've been watching them burning down Masonic lodges all over the world. But here's the thing. With these guys, you never know, because they're a little tricky. You never know if they're saying, oh, okay, well, we no longer use those Masonic lodges. It's the satanic temples over here that we moved to. And we got everybody to accept that under the satanic flag. So they won't touch that. So they're going after, the decoys, the Masonic lodges. That's just my theory on it. I have no proof of that whatsoever. So just letting you know, but it sounds about the way that these guys operate. And you never know if it's the Masons burning down their own things so the people will get sympathy for them or have sympathy for them. All we do is reject the Father in heaven. That's it. They killed us. They burned down our buildings. We don't know why. This is how they are, trying to get sympathy for that position, political or religious.
That's similar to what Constantine did with creating the cross and then getting the believers of Jesus to join his cause. And it was a political stunt. But he basically tricked believers into paganism, which is where a lot of the Easter and Christmas stuff comes from.
You mean the 25th of December is not when Jesus was born?
You mean eggs don't come out of bunnies?
No, I have seen that in my dreams. But
it's a nightmare.
I'm just saying. But if there are three, and that's called a creed, folks. If there are three things that they believe in the specific creed. And it's basically right here is the separation of church and state, controls and the power of the state, and then emancipate the women from the family. Give the women the power of the state, and the church is held helpless to even stop it. They're considered heretics and crazy. But how many single mothers are there out there? There are many. And they rely on the state to take care of them. Most of them. Not all of them.
So the sorry, just to add to the reason, another one of their goals was to replace Christianity. Like that was the main of those, the three of the creed. And the way of doing that was ideals of reason, virtue, and liberty.
Ideals of reason, virtue, and liberty.
Mm-hmm.
So liberty from what, right? So what they do is, yeah, that's the agenda. The separation of the church and state controls the power of the state and emancipate women. If that's the case, then they want to make sure that any form of Christianity or belief in Yahushua will fail. And therefore, they will come up with what? You just said it.
Oh, sorry. So the Christianity would be replaced with ideals of reason, virtue, and liberty. This is their new religion.
Okay, so that's liberty from your Father in heaven and from Yahushua. So if you can liberate yourself from them, then there's no sin. And therefore, if there's no sin, a pedophile can do what they want. There's nothing wrong because there's no sin. There's no one witnessing and say, hey, that's wrong. That's not good. This is not good. Okay? Not a good thing. To have rape kids.
All right.
Go ahead.
Based on reason, there was scientific experiments that pedophilia isn't real. You know, kids are sexual at birth. So that's reasonable.
Table 54.
Yep.
So in order to prove that they are reasonable and you're not, they artificially, on table 54, they artificially gave children all the way up to 15-year-olds, 18-year-olds, orgasms up to 100 times. Okay? A day. Be 150 times a day. Now, can you imagine giving a baby an orgasm? Number one. And number two, 150 times in one day. And then, by reason, declare that the baby enjoyed it and is a sexual being. In their eyes, in fact. You see how sick this is, folks? That's what they're doing to people. And this is making sense to everybody for some reason. To separate the church and the state. It's making sense to everybody. Why would you do that? Makes no sense whatsoever. I don't care if you're not going to change the world by creating Chrislam and opening up 3 worship centers where all 3 major religions can come together in one area and then have their worship services in each building. It's a great moneymaker. I get that. You know, it's really good for the money and the pocketbooks, but that's about it. It's just going to fill man's pocketbooks, and that's it. There's nothing spiritual about it. Okay? So that's where this is, and this is how a demon hides. That is the basics. I just gave you a few examples of what that looks like, how we see things, and how you have been manipulated. You are in a gigantic hole in your mind. You're in a pit. Look at those 3 edicts that they're coming out with. Just look at them. Separation church and state, emancipate the women, show how much the state has power. That's worse than communism. Okay? That's idol worship. Either
Right,
way
the
you look at
state
this.
the state becomes God,
Yep.
and man's reason becomes God, trying to free themselves from sin in their own way, or not free themselves from sin, but free to sin in their own free will. Because ultimately, Jesus came here to set the captives free, or captives to sin. So this is a very delusional thinking on the founding fathers' part. They're under the spirit of disobedience for sure.
And have a very real, and I'm talking an exponential experience, a very real impact on people with these beliefs. And have to where people have died for it. That's the sad part. People have died for this thinking, telling you that it's a Christian thinking, or that it's Jesus inspired. I even had one guy try to tell me about, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. He says, well, if you don't believe in the Constitution, you don't believe in Jesus. I said, really? That's right. You know, then neglected to say that the Washington, D.C. set up on a pentagram, and it has a phallic symbol right in the middle of it. You know, all those things. It's okay. Yeah, I'll believe you. That came from Jesus. So,
right, because Jesus preached religious tolerance, right? Like,
yeah, I heard him do that.
right. So the very first amendment was to allow for veneration of whatever God you want. So what does that tell you right there about what their true intentions were? Doesn't sound like they were following the Christ.
That's correct.
You need to accept others' pronouns, Chris.
All right. So anyway, that's what they did. I mean, it's horrible what happened, and it's horrible what happened to the children. And look at society today. This was not done by accident. It was done by design to destroy all religions and bring it into one. That was the plan. You destroy a religion, you know, if you're going up against a preacher, it's going to give people hope. Don't, you know, so they have to watch that. They have to watch what they do, meaning these Illuminati. They've already ruined their own product, which was Hollywood. Have you noticed that a lot of those Hollywood stars that used to play in really big blockbuster movies are now doing commercials? It's because nobody's watching their movies. Their movies are losing money big time. Disney World has closed 2 of its parks. Not making any money. They became, pedophilia is not very popular among parents. So they're not going to keep supporting that kind of thing. They're going to stop watching it. None of what they're promoting is popular, folks. This will all fade away soon. But in order for the next generation not to fall for it, they have to be educated on the thinking of these type of men. I think Thomas Paine stayed with another guy. Who was the guy he stayed with his wife? They had a menage a trois for 3 years.
Oh, shoot, I forgot.
You remember that one? Well, they can watch the show. They can watch the 3-hour show that exposes that as to what kind of guy this was. Adultery was not a big deal to him. He didn't really care about that. So, and apparently any of his other friends would share his wife for 3 years. But anything else that we need to talk about on this subject matter that I missed?
I think you covered it all.
Okay. Thanks for listening to the T-ROH Show, folks. I hope that you've learned something today. Even further peeling back that onion that the T-ROH started doing. If you want to watch some of the shows that we have, we go up to like 237. They were just never published on YouTube. So you're welcome to see those on Rumble on the T-ROH Show, or go to the website. That's t-rohshow.com. You can go there and see that. You can go there and see the Dark Light series. We have another series of the latest attack on the government by the members of the Continental Army that have made up the most horrendous lies that we've ever seen. So if you want to see the rebuttals on that, you're welcome to. I still think I'm going to go on the T-ROH Show. We have a government channel, and then we have a T-ROH Show channel, and I might put that one that Jay was busted on there, just to see anybody's reaction. We had never put that stuff on YouTube. We put it on Rumble, and then we put it on BitChute and our own website, but we didn't put it on YouTube. So I'm gonna try to see if we can get something done over there. But anyways, thanks for listening to the T-ROH Show. We appreciate everything. If there's any questions or any comments, leave them down below, and we'll take a look at it, and we'll see if we can put even a greater puzzle together on something that we have missed, because you've never got the whole story. There's always something else that will add to it, and there's always something there that these guys are up to, because they're always planning, plotting, and all that when everybody else is asleep. They'll do it at night. So thanks for listening to the T-ROH Show. We'll see you next time.